Yes, hello everybody, and thank you, Margrethe, for kicking us off. It's a great pleasure to be here. I would like to thank everybody who has joined this session. I think we have a very interesting session ahead of us. This is a session which is in continuation of the discussions we had yesterday. This is a part of the seminar series kickoff for the Calestus Jima seminar series. And for everybody who was there yesterday, I think that, as was just mentioned, many of the themes and the issues that were brought up yesterday connects very closely to what we will be discussing today. So thank you very much to ACTS and the Calestus Jima Legacy Foundation for organizing this. So as I said, we have a very interesting seminar today. What I will try to do now is that I will try to give some background. I will be talking a bit about the framing of this research that we have been doing. I will try to provide an overview of key research findings, and we will then in later sessions go more into depth of these research findings. And I'll also just give a very brief glimpse of some policy discussions that we will also go into in much more depth later. As has already been mentioned, what we are discussing today is an outcome of a project that was funded for 5 years by Danida, ending this year. And we have 3 main participating institutions in the project: Aalborg University, where I'm from, the Department of Business and Management, now Aalborg University Business School, the African Center for Technology Studies, ACTS, Moi University, and we have there the Department of Engineering involved, and also the Department of Business. What you see here is a photo of one of our latest research workshops in Kilifi. Excellent workshop. As you can see in this photo, we also had formal linkages with some other institutions. So we have, for instance, Danish Technical University involved. Ulrik Hansen will be speaking a bit later. We have the Sussex Energy Group involved, the Stockholm Environmental Institute, and so on. So this has really been a great collaborative project. I have very much enjoyed working on this project over the years. So thanks. I would like to use this occasion to say thanks to everybody who has been involved. Now, the key output of this project is this book. What will be this book that you can see here on this slide. It is still in production, but we have a preview of the cover shown here. It's going to be published in the Pathways to Sustainability series, which is edited by people from the STEP Center at Sussex and published by EarthScan Routledge. It has 12 chapters summarizing key findings from our project, edited by the people you can see here on the screen. And we very much hope that the book will be out in October or November. So basically, what we have today is not a presentation of the chapters as such. There will be presentations that link to the chapters and based on the chapters and highlighting key elements of the chapters. But we've been trying to focus it around themes that Margrethe mentioned. So I just wanted to highlight at least some of the chapters here, and those are the chapters that we will be connecting to in today's session. So I will be talking a little about framing in chapter 1. We also have chapter 5 here with Faith Wandera. She's been doing work on small wind in Kenya, understanding the diffusion and non-diffusion of small wind in Kenya. She's also working in the Kenyan Ministry of Energy And based on this experience, she's participating in the policy session. We also have Chapter 6 involved. Charles and Silla will be presenting on behalf of Charles and Michael Correa. What they have been doing is a survey of capabilities across different value chain functions involved in renewable energy. Then we have Rebecca Hanlon presenting on Chapter 7, interactive learning and capability building in projects, where they go much deeper into specific projects and doing qualitative work to understand processes of capability formation and other industrialization benefits. Then we have an intervention by Joni Karjalainen, who's been working on off-grid solar PV firms. So then going into not the projects, but particular firms, looking at linkages and other factors involved in capability formation. We have Chapter 10, which is looking specifically on Chinese projects and co-benefits arising in those. We had, when the project was starting, a particular interest in South-South technology transfer. So this is one of the outputs about that dimension. We have Anne Kingiri talking about, on the basis of Chapter 11, on policy issues based on a very deep work with the stakeholders in the sector, including stakeholder surveys, to discuss policy issues and also in specifically what this chapter is about, local content issues. Chapter 12 is what I'm talking about now. I will try to summarize as best as possible some of the key findings. Yes, so you could see from the title the key themes of the book. So the key themes or phenomena in the title are renewable electrification and sustainable industrialization. So it could be relevant just to clarify what we mean when we use these terms. So renewable electrification, that includes both the creation of access to electricity to formerly non-electrified communities, but it also includes transformation of existing energy systems with renewables. In particular, the first part of this is something which is ongoing and an ongoing process across different countries in sub-Saharan Africa, but of course also the second part about transformation and greening of existing energy systems. Then sustainable industrialization, it's useful to note up front. This will be something that is popping up during the discussions, that sustainable industrialization has also a double meaning. On the one hand, it's industrialization, which is environmentally friendly, adhering to the planetary boundaries or helping to that adherence. Is also a type of industrialization which can be sustained in the long run. So not capabilities that are only useful for short term, but durable for the longer run. And of course, sustainable industrialization activities in our definition contribute to restructuring of the economy in a way that we think about as industrialization and conventionally thought about within that term. So in this respect, innovation capabilities are very key, not only because you need certain levels of capabilities, production and innovation capabilities to participate in industrial activities, but also because those innovation capabilities need to go in certain directions in both of these respects. So it's about the directionality of capability building. So the main question here is then, how does the former contribute to the latter? How does renewable electrification contribute to sustainable industrialization? To what extent, where, and how does it occur? Under what circumstances does it happen? So key here is how do we shape the renewable electrification pathways to maximize the sustainable industrialization outcomes? You could see that as the key research question. And trying to answer this research question, we collect evidence mainly from Kenya, but as you will hear, we also have evidence from other countries: Ethiopia, Uganda, Tanzania. But we focus on renewable energy. Of course, we have most material on solar and wind energy. We also have on geothermal and hydro and other energy sources. So we think about the link between renewable electrification and sustainable industrialization in this way. We can think about two types of benefits: primary benefits and co-benefits. So primary benefits are when you electrify communities, as I mentioned, formerly non-electrified communities. You have increased electricity access and use, as shown at the top here, and that can produce industrial gains arising from increased electricity use. So there will be many downstream implications of that in terms of additional manufacturing activities and other productive activities. So this is something which is particularly relevant in societies where we still have electrification processes ongoing. Not so relevant when you have fully electrified countries. Then that is sort of the outcome of renewable electrification. What we are focused on mainly is the bottom part of the slide. Our focus is on the economic co-benefits. And that is because we focus on the process of renewable electrification, and that is really about green energy infrastructure delivery. That creates new economic activities and capacity building, and that produces, as is shown on the slide, industrial gains. As you learn from these activities, produce supply chains, create jobs, and so on, as was also mentioned in the video that we just saw. So within thinking about this link that I just mentioned, we have three different themes that we bring together in the final chapter of the book. The first theme is project design, organization, and linkages. So renewable energy is typically a project-based activity, and projects have different anatomies. They are very different. We have many different types of projects involved. So in different types of projects, how are local actors involved? How much local content is provided? And what's the nature of that content? What's the nature of linkages between local and foreign actors? To what extent do they include elements of knowledge transfer and capacity building? So that's the first theme. The second theme is about the deployment model and the choice of technology. So renewable electrification involves different types of technology, some of the core technologies, solar and wind, I mentioned, but also different modes of deployment. For instance, do we deploy that in a centralized or decentralized manner? Questions here are, how do characteristics such as those above matter for the associated opportunities and outcomes in terms of local industrial activity and capacity building in and around these projects? What's the role of policies and political actors? That's the third theme. So we have multiple policy domains involved, both at the local and global scale, that are relevant to these processes. So what policies are in place to foster sustainable industrialization gains arising from electrification? How do they affect the realization of these outcomes? What opportunities and obstacles are important for maximizing these outcomes? So what I will do in the following 3 slides is I will try to give just a very brief overview of some of the key findings. Of course, it's very difficult to boil down this wealth of material, but I'll be doing some highlights. For some reason, I'm unable to change the slide. here we are.
Now it works. And
Yes.
Rasmus, you have not so much time left.
I will try to be quite brief. So for the first, what you can see here also on the slide is that I've highlighted some chapter numbers in red. For most of these points, we have several chapters speaking to the different points. And as I was mentioning, we have different types of methodologies and units of analysis speaking to these points, but at least I've highlighted some of those here. So a key finding is that foreign-dominated modes of project organization is the norm in the majority of projects. And often we have marginal or less strategic local involvement. It matters greatly how projects are organized. Most of the projects, they're carried out as EPC contracts in what we could call a full package model. So models that have little room for significant local participation in higher value and learning intensive activities, because the full package is designed and specified and delivered by external providers. The main economic co-benefit in most cases are jobs directly involved, but temporarily in the construction phase. And local learning by doing is rather limited in most projects. It doesn't occur, as is sometimes supposed, as sort of natural byproducts of project deployment activities. We also find, and this speaks to the next part, that projects with less capital intensity and complexity provide better co-benefits, such as supply chain development and learning. And this, as I said, connects to the deployment model and choice of technology. There's evidence that local learning and industrialization gains, they tend to be higher in small projects as compared to large ones. Small projects have a local EPC provision sometimes, which can also bring about backward linkage formation. But in many cases, even though local firms are involved in different types of EPC elements, foreign firms still tend to design these elements. Local capabilities we find are higher. Charles will be talking about that in solar PV as compared to most of the other domains, including also in home systems, as Joni will be talking about. So basically, we find that choice of technology matters in terms of deployment model and choice of technology. But the choice is not just about that, it's really also about organizational modes of how you design the electrification process. So in terms of policies, limited attention is given to the economic arrangements for deployment. So the main attention is really given to bringing out electricity to rural communities, to getting on new projects to the grid. That is the main policy focus, but how that is being done, the economic arrangements, tends to be left to market forces. There's unequal policy attention to different elements of the process, different technologies, and so on. And that influences both deployment levels and also, importantly, the industrial gains that can be reaped from this. We find that upfront planning for enhanced economic co-benefits is key. A simple but fundamental point that unless you really factor this in and think about it when you design programs and specific projects, they won't happen. So deliberate policies, they're rarely formulated and implemented is what we have found, not to the extent that we would wish to see, but of course, there are some interesting exceptions that we can talk about later. Policies for larger local involvement and linkage creation, in particular local content, it's becoming more pronounced, but not being fully implemented and enforced. And further on this point, local content requirements, they're very difficult because of capacity deficiencies, constraints in this respect, and because of external competition, and because that even when they are designed and implemented, at least on paper, they tend to be circumvented during implementation. So I think I'm going to skip this slide on the pointers for policy. We will have a session which is on policies later. Maybe I can bring up this slide by then. I also just wanted to show that we have in the book key pointers for policy action that elaborates on these. So some of you might be interested in getting hold of this, and you can, if you want to have advanced access to some of the chapters of the book, please do write me an email, and we can see what can be arranged. But these were the words from me for now. So once again, thank you very much for joining the seminar, and I really look forward to the ensuing presentations. We have an excellent lineup, great external commentators also. So thanks a lot for joining.
Great.
Yeah, okay, good. So Rasmus, over to you.
Well, thanks. I just wanted to make a very brief comment and actually say thanks a lot to both Sokona and Mbole for their interventions. I thought your comments were excellent, and they tie into the sentiment of this project. And I think basically what you said, there was quite a lot of interlinkages between the points that you made. I want to emphasize just one point where I think Sokona is absolutely right, at least in this project and many of the discussions, at least that I participate in. We do not have sufficient discussions about what you, Sokona, called the vision. Both of you mentioned that we have to think about, you know, these industrialization gains coming out of electrification, how they link to other processes of industrialization. What is the vision? Like, for instance, Mbole, you mentioned the agricultural clusters approach, and how can that create? How can we create synergies between such agricultural clusters, the types of renewable energy deployment that we would like to see, and so on and so forth. I thought that it was very strong when you said, Sokona, you said centralized energy systems are no longer an option. Very, very clear statement, and also I think a statement that really ties in with the points being made by Mbole about, you know, small scale agro-industrial development. So for us, the important task here is, of course, how to think about how can we create the capabilities that are supporting both of those processes. And again, the black box approach does not work. This is something what I think we can say with very strong confidence in this seminar in the honor of Calestus Jima. It does not work. We need to have a vision, and we need to find out how local solutions, local technology can be developed, which is not black boxed. So I really just appreciate the comments that you have made. And I think I also picked up the notion of the capability ladder. So in closing, I just want to emphasize that all of the time we have to keep in mind how this ladder works. It's not a ladder that is one of those that you see in a shopping center where you are on one floor, you step onto it, and magically you are transported to the next floor. Unfortunately, this ladder, it works in the way that you have to take the steps. And I agree with you very much about the points that we should be happy with taking small steps. But nevertheless, you have to take the steps yourself. It's an active effort that you have to make. So thank you very much for those two excellent interventions.
Thanks, Rasmus. And Professor Ogata, I think it's over to you now.
Yeah, let me put on my camera. So 3 things that I would like to mention in the closing remarks. First is really to say a big thank you to everybody that presented and the participants. Initially, I'd indicated that I was going to leave and come back, but I just want to confess that I've not left because at every time I was saying that now, let me start by listening to the presentation from Rasmus, and after that, I know I need to listen to Rebecca, and it continued until this time, a clear indication that I was really very, very attracted to the presentation and also the reactions that were coming from the participants. So big thank you to both the presenters and the participants for really keeping the session very, very interesting and attracted all of us to remain here up to this level. Number 2 is that I was the one that raised the question of distinction between rural electrification and renewable electrification. And I just wanted then with that to provoke all of us that traditionally, whenever we have talked about electrification, the focus has always been to provide lighting as a product to those who cannot access electricity easily. And we have always then not linked it to the productive use of electricity. And I'm very, very delighted the way Paul brought it out. And I would encourage all of us going forward that even when we talk of the renewable electrification, then that link of provision of energy for use in the productive sector becomes very, very important, particularly when then we are linking the whole discussion with industrialization. And number three, the issue of innovation paradox, as was brought up by Rika and contribution from Rasmus. It is very clear that it's a hot topic that we may want to pursue going forward, because some of us very, very strongly believe in investing more resources, particularly in Africa, on the use of existing technologies as a way of scaling up industrialization and realizing sustainable development. The whole concept of reverse engineering, for those who are familiar with the technology path that were taken by China, Japan, India, to some extent are sold to that concept, and it might just be useful that going forward it is something worth revisiting. And finally, then, just to reassure everybody, because there was a question raised by Mangini, how do we ensure that what is coming out of this seminar series can be packaged and used to influence policy decision? And I wanted to just repeat what I mentioned yesterday, that we are very clear that for every seminar we'll be organizing, we'll have specific outputs in mind. And for this, there will be proceedings coming out, and finally, some policy briefs. And we hope with the policy briefs, we'll be able to undertake some policy engagement with the policymakers. So thank you very much once more for your participation, and I wish you a nice weekend. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Prof. It's been a pleasure and very good interventions here. I'm very, very thrilled to hear that you were not able to leave the session. That is a really good indicator. Thank you very much for revealing that. So Angela Castillo, now over to you for the final remarks. And I think I will, from this end, I will just say thanks, a big thanks to everybody. Angela, we will hear from you, and then towards the end, I think everybody can put on their cameras and we can wave goodbye to each other.
Thank you so much, Dr. Holm-Andersen, for conducting such a wonderful second day of the seminar. Hello to everyone. My name is Angela Christiana. I am the Executive Director of the Calestus Jima Legacy Foundation. It has been such a great pleasure and honor to participate in this inaugural event of the Calestus Jima Lecture Series yesterday and today, and I'm looking forward to the next one, which may happen later this year. Thank you to all of the panelists and participants for joining, for taking time out of your schedules to be here, and for sharing your energy and expertise. It has been very, very valuable. The themes and key takeaways from the IREK project are very aligned with some of the work that Calestus Juma did at points throughout his career. Alison Field Juma has told me that Calestus explored a similar topic in his master's thesis at the University of Sussex. So very appropriate for this to be featured in the first seminar series. I also wanted to just briefly reflect on the theme articulated yesterday by the president of the Calestus Juma Legacy Foundation Board, which was that Calestus always had a focus on people. And again, very appropriate to focus on capacity building, local capability, local actors, stakeholders, and their synergy with innovation and industrialization. Yesterday, the Calestus Jima Legacy Foundation was introduced extensively during yesterday's event, and I encourage you to watch that recording when it's made available by ACTS. We will also share it on our website and social media. I have posted those links in the chat for you all to click on and visit later after this we close here. Just very briefly, the mission of Calestus Jima Legacy Foundation is to advance economic transformation and sustainable development in Kenya and ultimately in Africa more broadly through the use of science and technological innovation. And our primary goal is to help local communities develop and implement innovative solutions to health, educational, food security, environmental, and employment challenges identified by local experts and community members. I'm very grateful to the team, the organizing team at ACTS, especially Professor Ogada, Dr. Kingiri, Agnes, Moses, and the whole team. Thank you so much. This is a great achievement, this event. On behalf of the Calestus Jima Legacy Foundation, our board, I want to say a big thank you. It has been, I know, a lot of work, but hopefully very gratifying. And we are very honored by everyone's efforts. Thank you again. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you very, very much, Angela, and likewise to you. And here's a lot of waving to everybody. Please put on your cameras. Was fantastic. Anybody taking a screenshot, Moses? Are you doing that? I know you're good at it. More people on video, please. Great. Yeah, I have to say that informally, the IREK project has been underway for such a long time. So it has been a fantastic thing to be able to present the results today. And thanks to everybody. Thanks to ACTS, thanks to you at the CDALF for allowing us in. And bye-bye.